On today's video, we're checking out a truly innovative piece of technology. This is the MILESEEY GenePro G1 Rangefinder. It is literally packed to the gills with next level technology. Not only is it a super accurate laser rangefinder, it is a fully functioning, intelligent GPS device. Now, you might have seen a pop-up here in the beginning of the video. That's because MILESEEY approached me and asked me to review their rangefinder, and they sponsored this video, but I was gonna review it anyways because when I saw what this thing could do, I had to get one in my hands, and now I do. And as always on these reviews, I'm gonna tell you everything I enjoy about this piece of technology, as well as a few ways that I think it could be better. On today's video, we're gonna unpack everything there is to know about the GenePro G1. Let's get to work. So when you first take it out of the box, the GenePro G1 feels premium. The weight, the grip, the build, it just feels like a solid, sturdy piece of technology, something that's hopefully going to be a trusty companion for many years to come. Now, the first thing that really caught my eye was, of course, the 2.13-inch AMOLED touchscreen. It's the largest display I've ever seen in any rangefinder by a long shot. We've had some that popped up in the screen. It was like a video in your eye. I've seen some that are on the back of the rangefinder, but this one being on the side, crystal clear, big and bright, it is definitely something unique. Now, of course, it's not just a party trick, it's actually useful, so it's super easy to see all of your yardages, hole maps, and hazards without ever having to pull out your phone. I love that because I hate distractions out on the golf course. It always messes me up. Now, on top of that, you've got no less than 4 buttons on this device. Some will power on the device, some will select modes of operation, and of course, shoot flag sticks and other objects on the course. But one of my favorite features is the tactile slope switch located under the lens. You simply turn this and you can go from advanced slope mode to tournament compliant in a second. It's also color matched so you can tell which mode you're in at a glance. The included case is sturdy. Inside, I was surprised to see this super soft velour-like fur. It looks and feels high-end. It's a premium product and it actually feels like one all around. Now, if there's one thing missing from this build, it's gotta be the lack of a magnet. I'm not sure why it was not included, but hopefully, like other rangefinder manufacturers have done in the past, they'll create a case for it or maybe update this product in the future with a magnet, because in today's day and age, it's kind of a must. Now, the one good thing I will say is that it's going to save you from leaving this expensive rangefinder on your cart. But again, I would really love to have one included here. Next, let's cover the core features of the GenePro G1. So as I mentioned, this thing is packed with next level features. Here are some of the highlights for me. Of course, as I mentioned, you've got that massive AMOLED touchscreen. I found it super responsive to touch and gestures. Out of the box, it comes loaded with over 43,000 golf courses. There's lifetime access and no subscriptions. And I think we all have subscription fatigue at this point in time. So it's really nice to have a device, super powerful piece of technology like this that doesn't need one. Some more standout features for me include what they call range sync arc. So basically you have this visual of expected distances that you hit each of your clubs in the bag. It's really nice to see if any hazards come into play or to narrow your misses out on course. I always say that with better technology, you make better decisions, and it's nice to see that here. It also has dynamic front, center, and back distances for smarter course planning. And a super cool feature that we're getting with this MILESEEY here is what they call smart slope technology. That uses environmental factors like temperature, humidity, and elevation to give you a very accurate prediction of how far that distance will play in real life. This type of technology is a huge lifesaver, especially if you need to be very pinpoint in carrying hazards. One huge mistake that I see so many amateurs and mere mortals make out on course is to not take the daily conditions into play. So for instance, in the morning when I play golf, it's always going to be about 5 yards difference in terms of my carry yardages because it's dewy, because of the temperature, all of that stuff. So really critical to know exactly what you're getting for each and every shot, and you've got it here. Speaking of weather, the GenePro G1 is IP65 weather protected, which means it will protect from rain, it's got fog mode, and it's basically ready for any condition. You've also got nice to have features like a scorecard built in if you want to keep track of your round on the rangefinder itself. You've also got a pin location pointer in case you ever have a blind shot and need to know which direction to aim. I would say that out on course, using that pin pointer, it wasn't always perfect, so always take that type of information with with a grain of salt, but it's a nice to have feature when it works for sure. Now, let's talk about what this thing is at its core, a laser rangefinder. As a laser rangefinder, it's lightning fast. It locks onto the flag in about a 1/10 of a second, and it gives nice haptic feedback or a nice vibration in your hands when it locks on, and you're now ready to swing. As we mentioned earlier, MILESEE's smart slope technology goes beyond the normal slope, so it factors in the temperature, the humidity, the elevation, and it gives you a number in the rangefinder right on screen that is going to be your effective plays-like distance. Again, it's a massive help to someone like me from hot, humid, flat Florida who does a lot of golf traveling and I play all sorts of different environments. I was just in the desert a couple of weeks ago and that plays so different than my home course. So again, that data for me is invaluable. All right, let's dive a little deeper into that GPS and touchscreen. So with the GenePro G1, you've got 43,000 preloaded courses worldwide, like I mentioned. I found out on course, it quickly grabbed the satellite and it locked on, and I had no problem finding the course I was playing on, along with a few nearby courses to choose from. Now, if like me, sometimes you don't always start on the first hole, maybe you start on the 9th hole or someplace like that, it makes it really easy to choose the hole that you're on. You've got dynamic front, center, and back distances, which I found to be extremely accurate. I literally put it up against another GPS device that I had with me in the cart from a manufacturer that I trust, and I found the distances to be bang on. And now I've used watches, I've used handhelds, and I've got to say, having that screen easy to access really more than any other device speeds up the round, because not only do I have that exact distance to the pin, I've also got to see what's around that hole and what I've got to avoid. So it's really nice to have it all in one. You can also zoom into different features on the hole, like if you want to see what it is to get into the front bunker or maybe to carry the water, for instance, it's just a tap of the screen away and you can zoom in a number of levels. I thought the touchscreen was surprisingly responsive because they're not always that way. A lot of times you hit it and nothing happens. This one is very responsive to gestures and swipes and taps. Now, another next level feature that I haven't heard a ton of people really talk about is what they call ball to pin mode. And basically that is triangulating your distances between one object on the course and another, and it can come in handy in a number of ways. Especially on cart path only days, this thing's a lifesaver because what you can do is literally hit your ball, hit the flag, and then triangulate a distance I found to be within about a yard when I was testing the MILESEE out there on course. You can also use this type of technology in other ways. For instance, if you've got a buddy on the course who maybe doesn't have their own rangefinder and they're across the fairway, you can let them know their distance by literally hitting them and then hitting the flag. It's super useful. And you could also use it to see, again, how far you need to carry a body of water, for instance, because you could shoot the front of the water and the back if you didn't want to rely on the map. So there's a lot of ways to use it. It's a fantastic technology and one of those things that I think really speeds up play, again, especially on those cart path only days. Now, battery life is probably another thing you're wondering. In terms of battery life, the trade-off to having that big, beautiful AMOLED screen is that it's going to require a fair bit of power. In my testing, I found this rangefinder got me through about 3 full rounds on a single charge on average. So it is something that you are definitely going to have to consider and think about. You're going to be charging this rangefinder quite a bit, maybe as much as every second or third time you play. So keep that in mind if it's going to be a big issue for you. All right, time to move on to my pros and cons of this device. So we'll start off here with the pros. The pros are, again, just how fast and super accurate this laser is. The smart slope and ball to pin technologies are so useful in real play. The touchscreen and GPS integration gives you complete course intelligence right in your hand. The build quality feels super premium, and I love that it charges on a USB-C. That is modern, that is easy. Thank you for using the standard, and every rangefinder out there should take note at this point. As you know, there is no perfect piece of technology in my opinion, so let me go over the cons with you, or some ways I think the MILESEE GenePro G1 could improve. For me, again, the biggest one has to be that lack of a magnet on board. I really hope they find a case or something to fix that. The second is definitely going to be the battery life that we mentioned. This is something that you're going to have to charge more so than most. And so you just have to be aware of it. And if you're like me, a person that's got a lot of stuff going on, you could forget. So it could be an issue. The third thing for me is the fact that some of the icons or the way the screen is laid out wouldn't be my personal choice. To me, out of the box at least, it wasn't super intuitive which button did what. So I found myself having to hit buttons and kind of find out, and sometimes it took me to places where I did not want to go. It wasn't that dark, I promise, but you know what I mean. Like I found myself in screens and areas that it took me a minute to get back to what I wanted to actually do. So of course that problem goes away once you start using the device and know the buttons and probably read the manual, which I must admit I am not a manual reader. So you could either read the manual or you could sort of mess around and find out like I did out on course. I just don't think it's super intuitive, but not the end of the world either. Once you get to know it, it'll work. The last thing, again, was the pinpointer I mentioned earlier. I found it worked kind of okay, but I also wasn't sure how I should point the rangefinder. Should I be looking down at it like this? Should I be using it like that? I just couldn't quite figure that one out. Again, maybe I should have read the manual, but it is what it is. So those for me are some of the ways I think this one could improve, but all in all, wow, impressive for sure. They have done so much with really so little real estate. I didn't talk about it, but the form factor of this is not giant like you would think it would be. It's heavy and dense in hand, but it fits so nicely in hand as well. You could literally put it in your pocket. So whoever the industrial designer is, tip of the cap to that person because they did a fantastic job with the form factor. MILESEE's tagline is that you'll see beyond limits here with this device, and I've got to agree, it is absolutely going to expand your horizons, your knowledge of the golf course, and what is capable out of a piece of technology like this. So good to see. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you love getting first looks at some of the best tech out there, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I'll catch you back here next time on another edition of Let's Play Through.